All right, everybody, welcome on in to the live stream and discussion today. Today, I've got a wonderful guest, Joseph Rodrigues, who is a prominent YouTuber with nearly 500,000 followers and 47 million views on YouTube. He's the founder of the Flow Prosperity community and the creator of 5 online courses around self-identity, entrepreneurship, persuasion, speaking, and he just released his most recent book on the direct path to 1 million, turning what you already have into a fortune on Amazon. He has worked with internet marketing luminaries, including Jay Abraham, and also has had a very successful previous company based in Toronto with IT services. So we've got a lot of things to cover here today. Let me go ahead and bring Joseph on to the stage. Joseph, welcome to the discussion here today.
Thank you, Gio. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. In the flow-based way, let's jump on into a conversation. And I always feel like the first place that is good to start, because some people will have heard of you already. Some people, maybe this is the first time. And I've given a good opening that you have a very strong following on YouTube. And I'm curious, how did your journey to becoming a prominent YouTuber get started? Where did it all start?
Thank you for asking. So I started in entrepreneurship in 2009. And from 2009 to 13, I ran an IT business. And then I felt like transitioning away from my IT business because I realized that what I wanted to do for the next phase was to focus more on consulting. Having had built the IT business to success, I had acquired quite a bit of expertise in innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership. Plus, I did 10 years prior. And what I found was I genuinely enjoyed more of the one-on-one. And although at a particular point I did enjoy the IT implementations, it was more the consulting and the coaching that I enjoyed more so. So I transitioned in 2013. And while I actually bought a one-way ticket to Austria, and on my way, well, prior to going to the airport, what happened is an idea emerged of making a video talking about how I'm now living out of a backpack and running a business. Because what happened is I got rid of everything. And you could say started from scratch again. My ex-girlfriend was from Austria, so I bought a one-way ticket to Austria. And as we were leaving the Airbnb that I was staying in, I asked her if she could make a video talking about what's in my backpack. So that's what started the very first video on my channel. Video about living out of my backpack and running my business and what's in my backpack. So that's how it started on my YouTube channel. So that kicked off the consulting practice, the consulting business, as well as the YouTube channel, 2013.
That's so crazy. I love that. It's one of the things that I speak about often, which is how everything starts from just an idea and everything starts from nothing. And so, in particular, for the community that will be listening to this, the One True Calling community, many people are in that space where they're either considering doing something, they're thinking about it, they're getting ready to shoot that first video like you did. And I'm curious, like when you did that very first video, uh, how did you feel about it? Were you comfortable coming on camera? Did you feel nervous? Did you feel awkward? What was that like?
That first video, I did not feel awkward and nervous. I didn't have time to think about awkward and nervous. And it was so natural of a flow that we organically captured that. Although I have made many videos since, and after a period of time, I started to get awkward and feel uncertainty, etc., while I was making my videos, which I released. But that very first one happened spontaneously. I was not thinking; it just happened. That one, that
I
particular
love
one.
that. It's like the no mind, the no, there's
Yes,
like there was no time to think about it.
yes,
That sounds like some pretty good advice for people.
yeah. So
Well,
now I actively found out what facilitated that, and I live in flow now. But yeah, that was a good insight.
So good, so good. Well, when you released that very first video, again, I just want to, pause or just spend a little few moments to speak about this moment where everything starts, everything comes from nothing. There is that moment for everyone. So you shot that first video, you edited it, you upload it to YouTube, and then what happened on YouTube? Was it successful at first? Did you get no views? Did you get some views? Did you get a lot of views? What was that? What was that experience?
That video started to get popular right away. And I didn't do any editing. I just recorded it on the iPhone, uploaded it, maybe chopped off the start and the end, and put it up there. And it started to get views. I felt it was an interesting topic at that time. And there may have been a lot of people, it looked like, that were curious about, could they do something like that? Could they just get rid of everything and start a business, do what they love to do, travel, etc. And so I felt that a number of people that watched those videos, and even from the comments I could see, they felt inspired or they were considering doing something like that as well. So it was part of a conversation that was already happening at the time that I
Mm,
happened to be tuned into. When you're
uh-huh.
in the flow, you happen to be dialed into the conversation, and
Yes.
there's this natural relatability in the flow. You notice that?
Yes. I do notice that. And it sounds like there was maybe a combination of being in the flow, but maybe you had some awareness that there was a bit of a movement going on. I call that like being aware of the current zeitgeist. Like there are things that are going on in the world that other people are interested in already. And what I've noticed with other YouTubers or content creators in general that I've spoken to is like sometimes you can think about these things, like you can intellectually think about them, and
Mhm.
other times you just sort of fall into them.
Yeah, I listen exclusively to my intuition. When I was building my IT business, I would listen to the Steve Jobs commencement speech over and over again. And he would
Mm,
say, follow your heart and intuition. Everything else is secondary. And although I was following that advice prior to learning about it from Steve Jobs, I felt I could do it more so. So this was an example of how it worked out. By
I love
not
that.
worrying, not thinking, just I had this idea. It was intuition and I moved forward with it.
I love that. And do you have any kind of a practice or a process that you use to tune into your intuition in that way?
Remain in flow. Because while you're in flow, there is what you just mentioned, no mind. Or another way of saying it, there's no illusions of separation. Or another way of saying it is there's no me versus people or I versus I. That's not there. It's not there. And all that's there is spontaneity and intuition. So as long as I remain in flow, what happens is spontaneity and intuition.
I love that. I love that. And do you combine that with any process in regards to, let's say, like capturing that on paper? Like I have a morning writing process. Do you have anything like that where you capture those ideas that come to you?
When I'm at the gym, when I work out, so I have a morning routine and it's a very flow based morning routine. And it happens to be the things that I would genuinely do anyways. I just put it into a routine. So it's not like I'm forcing myself to do it because I relax into the flow doing the things that I love to do. And I find that when I'm at the gym, I get these ideas. It could be ideas for things to talk about. I also, my Instagram post, that's where I get the ideas for my post while I'm at the gym. And I may say, you know what, I might use this in a video. But at a particular point, I release that identification. If the idea shows up, great, I'll entertain it. It doesn't necessarily mean I need to put it in a video. So I became more flow based about it because what I had found is an idea may emerge and then I take a note of it in my phone. And then I go back upstairs, finish my morning routine, and I'm about to do a video. And I say, okay, let's do a video on that one. And then that doesn't feel natural in the moment. Then there's something else that emerges, and I want to talk about that. So I let that be. Whereas in the earlier stages, I would kind of force myself to talk about it because I thought, oh, I got the idea at that particular point. So now I need to talk about it. So that was a nuanced point. So yeah, there are times where I'll move forward with those ideas in some shape or form, but there are times where it's just entertaining for me to entertain those ideas because there's a joy in just exploring that topic with yourself and might not necessarily be something that goes in the video. Although what I have seen is it may be brought up in a conversation. Like for example, in flow-based prosperity, something that I was entertaining and I didn't share publicly, someone will bring something up and then I'll remember that note that I took and what I was entertaining, and we'll end up discussing that, and that'll end up being helpful for them.
I love that. Yeah, I can totally relate to that because, I have other pieces of my morning routine as well. And everybody, I believe, has their own, their own way, their own process that helps them to get into flow. I
Yes.
do notice that when I'm out, I do a morning walk pretty much every day. And I live in a very beautiful place here in Scottsdale. And so it's very inspiring. The birds and everything's flowering. The cactus are flowering right now, and I get my best ideas doing that.
Yeah. 2017, I made flow a priority, and part of it was where was it easy for me without effort to access the flow, be in flow, where there's particular places and particular conversations and particular activities where this no mind happens. So I'm
Hmm.
not trying to get no mind, it happens. And then I also notice is as I remain in flow with these activities or environments, spontaneously it starts to happen in environments and activities where I didn't think that I could have this flow based experience in. So
Yes.
I would look
Boy, do
at
I.
what inwardly and outwardly are flow enhancers. And I didn't say one was better than another. I just honored them.
Yes, I so relate to that
Yeah.
because I lived in Colorado for about 25 years in another, quite beautiful community.
Yes.
And I didn't really feel as much flow there. I didn't. So when I moved here to Scottsdale, and then I go to Laguna Beach in the summertime, it's very instructive what we're talking about because I think, you know, different
Yes.
people will get into flow in different environments, and noticing what those environments are. It sounds like that's gold.
Yeah, that's perfect. Because why would you force yourself to be in flow? Because let's say a person may think, I need to be here to be in flow. I have to figure it out here. But that's just based on a belief. If they release
Yes.
identification to that belief, they might not be in that environment. They may be in that environment, they might not. But there's this forcing or needing to prove something that is actually restricting the flow. There's nothing to prove, everything happens.
Yes. Well, this leads me right on into another topic of conversation with you. One of your courses is roughly around self identity and shifting self identity. And why is that such an important topic to you? And why did you decide to create a course around that?
Thank you for asking. Because when you know who you are, everything happens. Everything spontaneously happens. Flow is the result. Personal magnetism is the result of true self knowledge. That means releasing identification to the thoughts of limitation that suggest that you can't be who you are. But we know who we are by acknowledging that we transcend the beliefs, the thoughts, the this and that condition. And the self is perfect as it is now. It is the love, the happiness, the peace, the bliss, the fulfillment that what we could say the illusory separate self was seeking for the whole life, which the individual identifies with and says, where is it? But it is here now. So that's true self knowledge. And when that happens, the true self knowledge is realized, the self is realized, everything flows naturally. So then there's no confusion of should I be in this environment or that environment. One could even say that they don't try to be in flow. Flow happens. There's no need to force or control or want or need or wait because you know that you are already all that you desire to be. And
Yes, and
so,
that's very unique for each person, right? It's a
yes,
journey that's unique to each person.
Yes. And so true self knowledge results in true self expression. In other words, the way you live your life is natural and authentic to you. And it does not mean that your way is better than my way or my way is better than your way. It means there's only the way. And we actually relate harmoniously together. We relate harmoniously together, and you do it your way, I do it my way. Yet there's no want, need, or waiting for you to be a particular way because I don't see that you have a problem. The self has no problem. It's just illusory to think that we have a problem, but that's where that program comes in, is to release those identifications, to realize the self is already perfect as it is now, perfect love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And then what happens is that is embodied into form as what you do, where you live, where you go, and you feel at home where you are. You feel it flow. A great example would be exactly like how you articulated these kinds of nuances. You're like, you know what, this environment feels like home to me. It's undeniable. You know, you don't force yourself to be in this environment. The
Yes.
environment just happens to appear to be in harmony with you because
Yes.
you have found the eternal harmony, and now it's
Yes.
appearing, and you're honoring it.
Yes.
You're honoring
I
that
have to
appearance.
I have to give, voice to a couple of things that I've, learned from you and also now, really, put into practice and experience. A couple of things. And the first thing being that, I there were some challenges in my own, experience growing up that created sort of this unconscious pattern, maybe of maybe not feeling good enough, right? Not feeling good enough, enoughness, basically. And so that kind of created like a shadow self aspect of when I finally developed my, good enoughness, through education and all of this thing, that I developed this pattern of thinking that other people needed to do it my way. And if they didn't do it my way, which was a fairly high standard way because of, my education and such, and I found that to be quite a barrier.
I relate to that. That was part of my journey as well. At a particular point, actually, when I got into consulting, I thought that because I did my IT business in a particular way, sales, marketing, operations, finance, leadership, that is the way that people got to do it. And I realized that, wait, that was generating a lot of friction because in consulting in the earlier stages, we would come up to conclusions and it would be more on the side of here's what you do to make it work. And they wouldn't do those things. But I noticed an interesting pattern. They didn't feel comfortable doing those things, or I didn't feel more specifically natural, because it's okay to feel uncomfortable maybe in the earlier stages when you're releasing the programming. That's totally fine. But let's say more specifically, it didn't feel natural to them. But I thought it was natural. So, in other words, I'm imposing my way on them. And so I realized that I can benefit from even more release of identification. And that's when, again, knowing who you are, you go back to the source and you say, well, that's the same self. And the same self is in perfect harmony. So, can I be as I am? And what happens is you allow people to be, and you have a conversation, perhaps, or even silent teachings. But let's say you have a conversation, and their way naturally emerges. So there's your way, there's my way, there's that person's way, etc. But ultimately, there's only the way. Yet the way can appear differently, and that's perfectly fine. It's actually perfectly in harmony. But if I form an identity around an appearance, then I may operate from that identity. And part of it is you need to do it my way, which is an illusory identity. True identity is beyond limitation, beyond needing to do this or that, beyond this versus that, because ultimately there's no such thing as this versus that. There's, we could say, this and that. We may do it this way, we may do it that way. Let's explore. And what happens is then they end up discovering their way. And that is very liberating. Why? Because we see that, oh, yeah, it's far easier to get to the result by not trying to control them to get to the result. They already know the way, as I know the way, because I discovered the way, you discovered the way. Why would it be any different for them?
In the resistance,
Yeah.
the resistance kind of dissipates, kind of like a cloud, like a steam cloud or something like this.
Yeah, and you
Well,
feel the relief too in the moment, right? You're just like,
yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Well, kind of related to this topic of finding your way, a person finding their way. One of the topics that we speak about, we're going to be speaking about here today in the One True Calling community, is
Yes.
kind of related to this, and I roughly call it around finding your niche, finding that space that you're called to serve in. And I noticed, from our conversation that well, obviously, like this is your thing, the flow based way. And so, what kind of advice might you give to a person around this topic who is trying to, let's say, find their way, find the space where they want to serve or to, create social media content around or to create programs around? What kind of advice would you give a person in that area?
Thank you for asking this question. Let's explore. So, again, I go back to true self knowledge. What feels right? And there are some clues that I've seen. I'm going to reflect back on my journey. So, growing up, I would fix computers, I would take them apart. When I would go over to friend's house, family's house, they would say, "Can you fix the computer? Can you remove this virus? My printer's not working." And I would go at it for hours. And at times they would say, "Yeah, I'm going to give you some money, or I'll give you this, I'll give you that." And I'd say, "Why?" I didn't think that that was actually working. Like that was work. I actually genuinely enjoyed to do it. So there are some clues, perhaps. You do things that you don't consider at to be work, but you excel in those things. You do it so naturally and effortlessly, you can do them all day long. And then at a later point, when I discovered that they were hiring, I used to work in this warehouse in the corporate head office. They were hiring for IT professionals. I was thinking, I'm going to get paid to play around with computers, and I get to learn more advanced things like servers and all these things. I thought of it as all fun. So that's a clue. A clue is what you genuinely love to do. I always say, and this is realized, so it's not like a theory. It's you are the love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment that you are seeking for. So, Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss. Or you could say, do what you love to do. Steve Jobs, do what makes you happy. These are great pointers because we can ask ourselves an honest question by not identifying with these thoughts that suggest you need to do this, you need to do that in order to be. Let's call it programming. You can be honest with yourself and realize that you really love to do this particular hobby or this particular craft or this particular initiative. And that is a great clue. Generally, it tends to be what I found, something that you do effortlessly, you could do all day long. People even ask you, they'll say, "Can you do this service for me? Can I pay you for this service?" So if the individual accepts themselves, true self acceptance, then they'll naturally gravitate, or we could say they'll naturally go ahead and turn that into a business or a career or something like that. But if they doubt it, that's okay. That's the programming. We release it. And so they'll naturally do what they love to do. So great litmus is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. That's why I teach you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So thus I came here to experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and share love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment through entrepreneurship. You see what I mean?
Yes, I do. It reminds me of a of a story that I had seen or heard. It was actually an interview with Larry King, and the interviewer sort of turned the tables on Larry King, and he started to interview Larry King. And one of the
Oh, really?
questions, one of the questions he said to him is, he's like, at the time, Larry was, I don't know, in his early 80s maybe, and he says, Larry, you're like 80, 80 plus years old. You've got a net worth of like $140 million. Why are you still working so hard and producing this show every day? And Larry just got quiet for a minute, and he just says, I've never worked a day in my life.
Like that.
Yeah. So that is right on. Well, super good. So I want to shine a little bit of light on your current book, The Direct Path to 1 Million, because uh, it's an interesting book and you wrote it in a very interesting way and did it very quickly. Tell us a little bit about the origins of this book and how it came into actual manifestation, like what your process has been.
The origins of this book, like the origins of my channel, including starting the IT business, etc., spontaneously, intuition, an idea emerge. Let's write a book. People were asking me at a particular point back in the days, when are you going to write a book? Because I did a lot of book discussions. As a matter of fact, you had mentioned that 47 million views. There's actually a lot more views. I took down a whole bunch of videos because of copyright concerns, but so there would have been more views on that number. But I used to do a lot of book discussions, and people would ask me, when are you going to write a book? But it just never felt like the moment. But then at a particular point, I felt the inspiration to start a new YouTube channel talking specifically about entrepreneurship, even though I talk about entrepreneurship on the first channel, the one that's at 400 and something thousand subscribers. I said, let's go very specific into entrepreneurship. And then the idea emerged, let's write a book along the way. And then I really felt it. I said, okay, now it's time. And like Steve Jobs said in the commencement speech, where I used to listen to that over and over again while I was building my IT business, like in all matters of the heart, when you know, you know. And so in that moment, you know, okay, time to write the book. And it just so happens to be that ChatGPT is quite helpful. It had evolved to the point of being quite helpful. So I started to work with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT would help me in the areas of spelling and grammar and fleshing things out. Like, for example, I'd say, this is how I relate to prospecting. If you are an entrepreneur and you're starting out in XYZ, what are some of the questions that you might have for me if you read this 3 or 4 paragraph articulation? And ChatGPT would give me very precise responses. And then I would say, okay, out of these 5 or 6 points that ChatGPT gave me, I want to include 2 or 3 of them into the book. The rest of them I don't feel is relevant because I have worked with thousands of entrepreneurs, and this is about the path, the direct path. Again, you are the love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment that you seek for in form as entrepreneurship to $1 million. Really refined what is relevant for this book without adding too much to it. So that was a lot of fun to do that with ChatGPT, and how interesting that it was at the precise point where I felt that it was time to write the book, where technology that was so supportive had emerged to the degree where it made it so effortless for
Mm,
me. And so what I did was I went to Mexico, Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and I dedicated a day to each chapter. And then I flowed with ChatGPT, put the book together, revised it a few times, etc. And yeah, it in a very effortless way, the book was released, put together, and it was quite fun.
I love that. I love that. I love hearing the background to that process and everything. And as you know, I've been to Playa del Carmen as well. What a talk about a flow enhancer.
Definitely. This is interesting about how it all works from my experiences. The environment was so cohesive for writing this book. I felt it while I was there. While I was going about it, it was like I can feel it, you know? It's like, let's say you play musical instrument, any kind of
I
instrument, or
do. Yeah, a little bit. A few different instruments. Yes.
so when you're working with one brand, let's say it's a very refined brand, they're all about the quality. You can feel it. And you could say, not only are you playing the instrument's kind of playing you, you're playing it together.
Yes.
That's how I
Yes.
felt with Playa del Carmen, Mexico, while I was putting together this book. And what's interesting, it was intuition. So intuition, an idea. Oh, let's go to Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and write the book. Well, I could have written it here, and there's no problem with writing it here. But that's the how everything comes together so harmoniously while in flow. So it was in contribution. So Playa del Carmen flow is captured in this book because, as you notice, there's the very distinct flavor of flow in Playa del Carmen.
Yes. Yes, I love it. Well, the other thing I love about the book is I love the sort of the targeting, or just the notion that the goal might be your first 1 million. And some people that's a small amount of money. For some people that seems like a lot of money, but I think it's very instructive or helpful to have that as a notion, because particularly with, as you mentioned, the technologies that are available to all of us right now, it's like, I mean, who could have imagined that we could all have our own TV channel?
Yes.
And so that opens up the possibility for anyone who, I feel, follows, as you have, so eloquently laid out, their flow, finding what really inspires them, looking, back to what they've always been good at doing, and then embracing the technology tools to turn that into their first $1 million. So I
Yes.
love that.
I have been in IT since I was a kid. And the degree of technology we have here, the precision and the support we have with technology is exponential compared to maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Exponentially supportive. And I don't even feel like I use ChatGPT to the degree that it can be used. I don't know anyone that that is using it to the degree. But yeah, that's it. I said in the book, you can take your knowledge, your wisdom, your reference experience, your stories, your life experiences, and turn it into a business. That's what I did with my IT business. That's what I did with my channel. That's what I did with my consulting practice. And it's effortless because you would talk about and share these things with people, let's say, even if they weren't paying you to do it. You hang out with friends and or you meet people out and about. You talk about these kinds of things you're interested in anyways.
Yes. Yeah, it's a perfect way to, I think, frame as well, because what you just said is absolutely true. Like, I would hang out and have this conversation with you regardless
Yeah.
of, what might come out of it. It's just like a conversation that we're having. It's enjoyable.
And that's the
The
direct path, and then it's flow based.
the thing I want to, to wrap up with just a little bit is around your prosperity flow community, because one of the things I think you and I share in common is this enjoyment of gathering people together in a community environment. And so, talk a little bit about your flow based community and what its purpose is and what it's all about.
And by the way, thank you for that. Thank you for you. I feel like you amplified that for me as well because I know you're a fan of community, so I could feel that flow, and you've inspired me in many ways to step it up in the community aspect. And it's not like a stepping up, like pushing me to your presence of actually being as you are inspires your way, which I can say, what's my way in relation to that way? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so the community aspect with respect to flow-based prosperity, it's a place where people can get together, have conversation, make friends, hang out, and we explore entrepreneurship in this kind of way where I don't tell people what to do. You need to do it this way versus that way. We explore. And we explore it as you know, I like the Robert Dills logical levels. I like to explore it at an environmental level, a capabilities and skills level, a behavioral level, values and beliefs level, identity level, vision level, true self knowledge as well from that premise. And we have exploratory conversations, and what naturally emerges is the results, the partnerships, the business growth. They have more fun, they have more flow, transformation happens, more accurately put, they be more as they are, because that's we're being as we are in the sessions and the conversations flow. And not only has that community been very powerful for everyone involved, but everyone involved also started communities as well, which was
Yes.
great. And
Yes. It's been like an incubator of
yeah,
businesses, ideas, masterminds. I've seen so much
yes,
generate from it.
partnerships, people hanging out with each other. For example, we're doing the meetups. We're doing one in New York. We did a number one. You and I hung out in Playa del Carmen. How much fun was that, right?
That was so much fun, and
And relationships were
have
formed.
to have Pia come from all the way across Mexico, and
Yes,
just open up a whole new, like, for us. We don't really know that country very well. Yeah,
yes.
just so many
And
things have
you're
come
coming
out of that.
to The San Diego one or the Los Angeles one or both?
It's coming up soon, right? The
Yes.
San Diego one.
Yes. So San Diego is going to be the 31st of May, Los Angeles the 30th. So yes, this one's going to be a bit larger. I'd say considerably larger than the Mexico hangout, although equally as wonderful. Yeah, yeah, same kind of thing. It's everyone connecting, flow-based conversations, masterminding, happening organically,
Yes.
because that's the point that I had brought up earlier. Upon realizing who you are, true self-knowledge, everything spontaneously happens, naturally happens. The collaborations, the partnerships, and you end up doing what you love to do. And in a community now, you've found the people that you can be you with. You know,
Yes. Yes. It's like
you don't put on
almost
a
like an
persona. There's
amplifier.
no faking, no group think, no trying to be, pretending to be. You can be you. It's there's no I versus I. We're talking about there's no mind earlier. And so that's community to me, where you can be you. And it's
I love
not
that.
my community versus another community, etc. One community is not better than another. They are all in perfect harmony, as we spoke about. We also see communities formed. You have a wonderful community as well. And they're all synergistically intertwined and connected and supportive of each other.
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm so excited. So the San Diego gathering is the one most likely that I'll come to, and I'm curious. Just some clarification for people maybe who don't, either maybe they're not members of the Prosperity Flow community. Is it open to others as well? Do we invite others into to these live events?
These particular events that I'm doing this round is for members of Flow Based Prosperity. So
Okay.
it's free for any member of Flow Based Prosperity. So if
Okay.
anyone wants to be part of Flow Based Prosperity, they can get attendance to one of these events.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure that we have the link to the Flow Base Prosperity group down below or near
Okay.
this video.
Well, you're going to
And
be
that,
there. I get to hang out with you.
yeah, it's be so much fun.
It's a
And
way to
in
hang
San
out with
Diego.
Gio.
Yes, in San Diego. What a great place.
Yes.
So as I just wrap things up here, I totally get that, you are in the flow-based way. And I am curious how you relate to the future and how you imagine, like if you imagine, the best possible emergence of your work, do you have any vision or way of capturing that, like how you might want to see your work to expand in the future?
Everyone living in flow to realize that that is perfect harmony. And then there's no confusion, no conflict, no me versus you, this versus that, all that dissolved. And we actually see that the natural order of things, which is the way, which is the flow of life, is actually in perfect harmony. And we don't need to interfere with it. It's actually in perfect harmony. So the work or what I share, I trust as people enjoy the information and we engage in conversations. Like even when I make videos, I see them as conversations. We're having conversations because people have shared with me that, I do the mind maps. They might not necessarily watch the mind maps. They may go for a walk and listen to it and go for a walk in a park and it's having a conversation with a friend. And what they notice is they relax into the flow more so. So I'll continue to put out this information, being in flow and sharing flow, which naturally results in everyone being in flow because truth is undeniable. We know who we are right now. And we continue to remain as we are in flow and everything happens. So yeah, the conversations, the content, the programs, etc., continue to facilitate that. That's what I see.
I love that. That's such a breath of fresh air, as we're in this moment of what could appear to be a lot of turmoil and change and transformation. I
Yes.
feel very aligned with your vision, not only the vision, but also like it's in actuality, it's more than just an intellectual thing. It's like there is something that's happening. And I do see more
Yes.
and more people who are stepping into the flow and embracing like who they are, what they love to do, creating businesses around it, friendships, connections. and expanding the flow.
Well, thank you for acknowledging that. Yes. What I'm noticing as well is the opportunities to release the resistance. You know that saying, resistance is futile. Because as we release the resistance, as there's a lot of resistance being released, what happens is naturally flow is the result. Because people have been inquiring for quite a bit of time now. They have inquiring, who am I? Is there more to life than what I believe or what I think? Do I really think these limited beliefs are me? Do I really think that I am limited? They actually access the truth through this inquiry. And then what happens is once the, as I say sometimes, the mind has been kissed by God, you experience the eternal peace, the eternal love, the eternal happiness, the eternal bliss, the eternal fulfillment. Let's say you're never the same again because you have
Yes,
found that eternal peace, which is everlasting, and you start living that way. And what happens is a lot of release. So, what we're seeing is a lot of release. And to facilitate the release being more effortless, allow it to be released. Do not
yes,
resist the resistance. Resistance is futile because what is there to resist? We're just returning to who we are, you see?
yes, yes. I think
We used
that's
maybe have been trying to do all these things in order to be, and now we realize we don't need to do those things to be. We could just be.
yes. Yeah, I think that's a perfect place to end things, to wrap things up. And I just affirm and confirm that resistance, is the thing to let go of. And then on the other side of that, like you say, being kissed by God, being open to what we each love to do and what we feel called to do. That is what we're all about here in my community as well. So, Joseph, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence here today.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you,
look
Jay. Thank you very
look
much
forward.
for this conversation. I had so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, me too.
I appreciate what you're doing as well with your community and everyone in your community. So,
Thank you.
congratulations on all the wonderful flow you spread to everyone. Thank you.